So congratulations on your 15 years in Silicon Valley Project Cornerstone. I look forward to seeing what we can achieve together over the next 15 years. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker this morning. She grew up in San Jose. She was seated at my table. There we go. She's over here. She's right where she's supposed to be, Ann. She grew up in San Jose and has created a program with national impact. Courtney Macavinta is the co-founder and CEO of the Respect Institute, whose mission it is to give youth and their influencers tools to build self-respect so they can end cycles of disrespect and thrive. Courtney and the Respect Institute have directly impacted over 70,000 youth and have indirectly affected millions more. Courtney has been featured on CNN, ABC, National Public Radio, US Today, and Teen Vogue. She's been tapped as a resource by the White House and the Clinton Global Initiative, and organizations such as the Girl Scouts of the USA. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Courtney Macavinta.
I wanted to share with you my first memory in life, which actually took place in our county. My first memory in life is actually of my mom holding me up like a human shield to try to get my dad to stop beating her to death. And what I now know is when that event took place in our family, I was 2 years old, the same age my son True is in this photo. It's no surprise, really, that my family ended up in that moment. It's not because we were low income, which we were. It's not because we were a mixed race family, which we were. It's as if when my parents were born, they had the experience, the feedback from the world that they did not matter. Both my parents were victims of child abuse, neglect, and by the time my dad was 19 years old, instead of going on to college or meaningful work, instead he was going to San Quentin Penitentiary for armed robbery, a crime he committed because he was a drug addict. My mom, by the time she was 16, going on 17, instead of graduating from San Jose High School, she was pregnant and became a teen mom. Were we less smart than our counterparts? No. As everyone knows in this room, what we were caught in is a cycle of disrespect. And what happened for us kids, I have 2 older brothers and an older sister, we all got caught up in our own cycles. So both of my brothers also went to prison before they were age 25. All of my older brothers and sisters struggled with drug addiction. None graduated from high school. And both of my older brothers and my dad all experienced homelessness, including in this county, throughout their life. Now, I brought up the county because, thank goodness, we were going through these circumstances, and yes, some of our own choices in Santa Clara County. Because what happened is we got help. Now, Project Cornerstone didn't exist at that time, but many of its partners did. For me, what it looked like was when I was in high school, about to be the 6th person in my immediate family to not graduate from high school because of truancy. I was about 1 absence away from not going to be allowed to graduate. I was not on the path to a 4-year college. I had not taken any SAT, pre-SAT, whatever. I didn't even probably know what those acronyms meant. And though I was a leader in a certain capacity, I was involved in activities like cheerleading and sports and even the school newspaper, I couldn't balance my dark and my light forces in my life. And so here I was on the verge of not graduating. And a couple things happened. One was, at this point, I had been, unfortunately, suspended from school twice and arrested twice, and those were just the times I got caught, let's be honest. And so I came into contact on my second arrest with a parole officer. Now, of course, I don't remember his name because I was a self-centered teenager, and I really wish that I did. And, he looked at me, and he basically said, you don't belong in detention. You don't even belong on probation. Something like, I'll make up, because this is what I hope he said to me. You need to be of service. And so what he did was he placed me at a Girl Scouts local office being of service. And I reported there on time, and I stapled papers, and I felt like an adult intern, not a delinquent. And I was told there, and again, I don't remember their names because I was a self-centered teenager, I was told there and experienced there that I mattered. And it's such an amazing experience for me to tell you that years later, I was then enlisted by the Girl Scouts to create a program at the Democratic National Convention and to create a national curriculum for them. So that's just the Girl Scouts. But also my family came into contact with other amazing influencers and folks like you. My brother, Gary, ended up achieving recovery from drug addiction, getting off the streets, and is now helping other men do the same thing as an employee of the Salvation Army here in our county. My father attended a residential recovery treatment program. I think, unfortunately, now it's gone, called the Benny McEwen House in East San Jose, and that brought my father back into our family, a sober, productive man. And my mom was actually helped by not an official of the county, but by a bank manager. So when my mom was trying to leave her violent, negative relation and reestablish her independence, she went to the bank and asked for a loan. And what we believe happened is that the bank manager actually gave her a personal loan out of his own pocket because she didn't have collateral. She didn't even have really an address at that time. And that helped her, establish herself in an apartment and get out of that situation. My sister, who also got off drugs at a young age, ended up eventually getting support as a reentry student at both West Valley College and San Jose State University. So I bring this up to say, if you're going to be a vulnerable youth, I really hope you live in Santa Clara County because we have, and remember, I was going through these experiences in the 70s through the 90s. So, with the past 15 years with things like Project Cornerstone, just imagine what is happening now. And having lived in New York for the 2 years previous, I have to say, I'm really happy to be home. And if you live here, don't move. And it's very amazing to see what we can do when we basically make a decision, which we have made in this county, to say, you matter. Not only to youth, but to their influencers. As we know, and what I love about Project Cornerstone's work, it is wonderful to wrap the youth in services that they need. But if we're not also helping heal, propel the parents, the teachers, the practitioners in the same fashion, we're not going to get the overall results that we want. In our work at the Respect Institute, we specifically choose to focus on self-respect as an asset. And part of this came organically. One of the ways that I got out of my circumstances, aside from the amazing adults that intervened in my life and told me I mattered, was I inadvertently started practicing something now that we have developed research to support, but they were organic and intuitive at first, called the Respect Basics. And the first one I put into play, which you may have heard in the story, was to know that I was valuable. Being of service at the Girl Scouts, stepping into leadership, leading from the seat. We don't all have to be at the front of the room. Then, following my passions. So when I was a senior, I did get the message that if I missed school one more time, and again, these are people at my school not letting me fall through the cracks and giving me that information. I didn't know how many days I'd been truant from school. I wasn't there. So, they let me know this is what's going to happen. And so I chose to show up at school for the remainder of the year, get attached to something I wanted, a passion. I did want to be a journalist. I did always have a sense of justice, and I wanted to pursue that through journalism. I went to West Valley College, where I was able to basically be a remedial high school student. I hadn't even passed algebra at that point. And just so happened, and I think a lot of us get lucky here in Silicon Valley, being in the right place at the right time. They did have a fabulous journalism program there, and the rest is history. The basics come from the idea that self-respect, our research shows, is a lot different from self-esteem. We have both. They both matter. Self-esteem is very influenced by, so self-esteem's having a high or healthy opinion of myself. But I form that opinion based on what you, the media, society, my parents, outside content tells me to think about myself. That's a little shaky, way to form a self-opinion, and yet that's how self-esteem is informed. Self-respect, on the other hand, I think is really helpful for those of us, vulnerable youth, but everybody really. We work all over the country. Because self-respect means knowing you're a unique contributor to the greater whole. Knowing you're a unique contributor to the greater whole. So a great difference is when I was preparing to give this talk to you, I do the part where I hold my arms up to show you what happened. And when I'm practicing this, sometimes I notice that I need to work out a little bit. I notice a little bit of flab right here. And so if I'm going to let that be the source of my power when I'm coming up here and talking to you and worrying about that, that is not the place I want to be coming from. I actually don't want to be coming from a low self-esteem moment. I want to be coming from self-respect, which is I'm a unique contributor. I'm one of 1,000 in this room who are committed to improving the lives of youth and therefore the lives of our entire community. And what I love about the work we all do is recognizing youth as an asset, recognizing their leadership, recognizing we need to learn more from them than they can learn from us. And so that's the difference between self-esteem and self-respect. And what we love about self-respect too is the research shows you can develop it, you can nurture it despite your circumstances. So we work with, a big part of who we work with are incarcerated youth and youth who are in Title I schools. And so you can be in a not so great circumstances that maybe a lot of how you landed there was outside of your control in the beginning. And you can still have reawakened in you, well, I am a unique contributor to the greater whole. What that looks like in my behavior is I matter, you matter. 2, equality. Respect is rooted in equality. And I think a lot of us, if you're like my 97-year-old grandma from Mexico, that's not the definition she taught me about respect. I mean, she said respect was respecting her, and I love my grandma, and I would never take her on in that regard. But, the issue is really of creating a society where we truly are behaving as equals of equal worth. And that's the work that we do, and that is the work that Project Cornerstone does. Last thing about self-respect that you might find interesting is, though it has the word self in there, we actually have to nurture it in community. We can't nurture it in isolation. If that were the case, me and my co-founder, Jessica Baker, would just spend all of our time hawking my book, Respect, and say, go read it in your room and good luck with that. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. And so, in our work and in your work, we've all used similar best practices. We created a model in which you can practice this in circles, in communities, in a school, but also one-on-one with one mentor. It has to be developed in relationship in part. So a big part of what I think about when I share this with you is the centerpiece on your table that says positive identity, recognizing what makes me unique. So we all get this. And I want to go back to the guy at the beginning of the story, so my father. Our work started working with girls, but we work with men and women now, and I have to always come back to him because I make him sound kind of like a bad guy at the beginning of the story. And he's passed on now, and I know that he would be very honored by this work and by our time together. When my father was dying of cancer, and he was sober, and we were very connected at that time, and again, another Santa Clara resource helped us through that problem. He was treated at Valley Medical Center, and we were supported through a hospice program in our county. One of the things he told me, and I kid you not, this is not for dramatic effect, he was on his deathbed, and we were having some of our final conversations. And he said to me, if just one adult had taken an interest in me, and that was not his experience, for sure, I would have had a different life. And so, in this age of everything needs to be evidence-based and federally proven and, all this stuff, I want to say, maybe you need to be evidence-based if you want a certain grant, but actually take a look at your work, take a look at how you spend your time, and remember, especially today, I know you are that one adult. And I know you are that one adult to not just one child, but to many children. And what I want to also encourage you to do is to be that one adult to yourself. You know, a big part of this work is remembering the other part of the respect equation, which is not only I matter, but you matter. So you matter. And your self-care, your recharging, your reinforcement, you being in a community of support is very important to continue this work. This is hard work. It's not easy. You have to keep showing up to it. There's a lot of setbacks. And what I love about Project Cornerstone is it's really hit on this formula, which is putting one adult with one child matters. At the same time, teaching youth the experience of respect looks like I matter, you matter, as they do with the Expect Respect program. That's all very essential. And the last thing I'll share with you from my dad, if your work speaks to this too. Like my brother, one of my brothers, my brother Gary, the one who I spoke to you about who had been homeless and is now working for Salvation Army, when he was 15, so Ann asked me to think about the age 15. When he was 15, he dropped out of high school and nobody noticed for 6 months. He was I'm dyslexic now. He was dyslexic, and he was, as you heard, he had grown up in a home with violence. Do you know he has almost 80% in common with all the other men who are incarcerated right now, including the drug problem? This might make us, that sounds really terrible, and what can we do about that? Well, we are doing something about that. I mean, doesn't it give you hope to know that literacy is one of the solutions, that ending violence, and let's not talk about ending things or banning things, I have feelings about that. Let's talk about what we want to create. So creating safe homes, which is the charter of Project Cornerstone. Creating opportunity for youth. So we're a part of the Opportunity Youth Partnership, and I just want to thank Dana for that opportunity, which is to say, you know, youth who are disconnected from education and meaningful work, they are community assets. They're not liabilities. So I'm grateful for all these lessons, and I'm grateful for your work. And in the story that I told, if you are someone like the probation officer, if you are whoever that wonderful administrator was at the office at the Girl Scouts, if you are the person that's intaking the most distraught, despairing people into a homeless or shelter program, if you are helping someone in recovery work, if you are the teacher, which I didn't mention all the teachers, but there were many, if you are the bank manager, you matter. We're all here to do our part, our unique contribution to the greater whole. So thank you for making your contribution today.
There you go. Courtney couldn't see that. I want to bring the lights up a little bit.
I got it.
Courtney, thank you so much, and I know that it was impressive and important for our police chiefs to hear that, and please know that you have great partners in us, and we look forward to working with you. We would really like to do that, I know.
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Okay.